Morning, we are in Mem Zayin Medbeis 47b toward the bottom. One of the last couple of lines of the Gemara bringing with us about the slippery slope and being careful about subtle deviations from the expected standing, and then what that leads to in terms of both personal and societal breakdown. So it says the Gemara like this. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines from the bottom of the page, the fourth word. The law begins with the word lacha, pen, v'goimer, and then the fourth word is mishirabu. Mishirabu, from the time when they're proliferated, when they became many, who behaved in a fashion that is quoted by the verse, by the pasuk, which says, "Tiyes garen meshakres einayim." It means the pasuk in Isaiah, Yeshaya, which describes the daughters of Zion, daughters of Israel, Jewish girls, that in a toyes garen, their outstretched necks, meshakres einayim, and meshakres comes from the word sheker, which means to lie, lying eyes. That is to say, sorry?
Deceiving?
No, well, deceiving because they're putting on makeup. Okay. That kind of thing. How does Rashi translate it? Where's Rashi? No, nothing there on Rashi. That's what Meshakres Einayim, the lying eyes, in the sense that they make themselves look falsely better looking than they are. And more importantly, they put effort into demonstrating their good looks. Yeah, provocative dress and provocative appearance, outstretched necks. So when that happened, Rabu Mayim Amarim, it proliferated literally the bitter waters, means the Sotah. Sotah, of course, is the law we're learning in this tractate, although we haven't done that in a while because we've been on the Egla Rufa train. But originally we were talking about the Sotah, which is the law of the woman who is suspected of, or unsure, but she's suspected of infidelity. And she drinks this water that by divine power lets us know whether she's guilty or innocent. So once women started to dress in such a fashion that was provocative, and they got into their external appearance, so that causes, lots of suspicion of infidelity. Yeah, it's self-explanatory. Ella, but Sheposku, it was stopped. As we learned in the Mishnah, at one point, it stopped working because of how proliferated it became, that they ended up stopping it. So before it stopped, it proliferated. Because they first kept it going every time there was suspicion. And lots of suspicion started taking place because women started to dress provocatively. And then it stopped because it got too much. And what's interesting is the way the verse, with the Gemara or the verse, describes women dressing provocatively as outstretched necks and lying eyes. But it seems to imply exaggeration. Like outstretched necks implies I'm putting myself out there more than I need to be, right? And then lying eyes implies that I'm lying about my appearance. I'm overdoing it rather than just presenting myself for who I am. So the point, I think, is that there is nothing wrong, and there's the subtlety in this, right? It's all subtle issues that lead into bigger problems. There's nothing wrong with a woman making herself appear presentable, especially if the girl is not married and she's looking for a suitor. She was looking to get married.
Probably should.
She should. As the Gemara comments elsewhere, she should dress in such a way that will attract her to, or will attract to her an appropriate suitor. But when it's outstretched neck, putting yourself out there beyond necessary, and it's lying eyes, not just presenting yourself presentable. but turning yourself into something that's not necessarily true to who you are just for the sake of grabbing attention, there's what the problem is. I think that's the line. Are you doing it for suitors? Are you doing it for potential marriage? Or even doing it for the sake of healthy intimacy between husband and wife? Or is it simply to grab attention? And if it's merely to grab attention as the lying eyes, which is just there to grab attention, and as his outstretched neck beyond what's necessary, it's just there to grab attention, now we're running into an issue. So again, it's that subtlety. That subtlety. I remember once I was having this conversation with someone. There's a few of us sitting around, and one person described someone or described a certain type of person who wears a shaitel at home and wears a tichel on the street, right? So Orthodox Jewish women cover their hairs after they're married. So there's different ways you can do that. And the two classic ways is either by wearing a wig, shaitel, or a tichel, covering your hair with like a cloth, essentially. A hat, a kerchief, something like that. So usually, the norm is, at least, when a woman goes out and she wants to look presentable, so she puts on her shaitel, she puts on her wig for Shabbos, for whatever it is, or even for going out, or just for the Shabbos meal at home to get presentable, right? Then when you're in the house, it's uncomfortable to wear a wig. It's heavy, it's whatever. So wear a cloth, a kerchief. So in this conversation, a person was describing a certain type that does the reverse. Wears a shaitel at home, a wig at home, and a tichel, a kerchief in the street. I remember thinking to myself, like, I'm actually not thinking, I said, like, that's kind of silly. What's, like, in the street, at home, you're wearing the more uncomfortable thing. It's the wig, and then in the street, you're wearing the more comfortable one. Like, isn't it usually the reverse? You're comfortable at home, and then you dress up to go out. And someone in the conversation was saying no. And there's something to this, which is in the street, random people are looking at me. I have to look presentable. I'm at home. My husband's looking at me. That's when I want to look presentable. Now, I'm not suggesting that all of them have to do that, because it is indeed uncomfortable to wear a shaitel, and then no husband should demand of his wife that she wear a shaitel at home, because that's not it's not appropriate. But that concept that it's not outstretched neck and lying eyes, trying to get attention when I'm out there. Right? There's a subtlety there. Who and what am I trying to attract? Am I making myself look presentable, or am I extending myself because I need to get up attention? And that's where the issue becomes. And just because we're all men sitting around the table, I'll take it back to what the Gemara said at the beginning, which is the kind of woman who ends up being a Sotah is because of the kind of guy she married. If she married the kind of guy who's looking for that kind of externalities, then she's going to stay that external, and she'll remain external when she gets married too. So it's not all on the woman. It's a partnership, and if the marriage is between both the husband and wife are in a healthy fashion, then these things don't happen. If there's an unhealthy relationship internally, then she might go seeking attention by outstretching her neck and putting on lying eyes if she's not getting the attention, not getting the respect and the care that she should be getting at home. So it's circular, and it's a partnership. But nonetheless, here the Gemara comments on the behavior of the woman specifically. Okay, next line, and this is something. Sorry?
It's just funny because that also connects to this. How it all starts with just something small.
That's right.
And then it could.
That's right. Yeah. We had earlier
could be
something about guys who are show-offs and eventually their wives, right? We had this earlier. Yeah. The guys who are show-offs and know-it-alls, and initially their wives are all impressed, but then later their wife kind of despises them. Maybe that's the kind of wife who then ends up being outstretched neck and lying eyes.
It's even like
right?
Men who, let's say, see things they're not supposed to see.
Yeah.
You can't give attention to your wife if you're
busy looking. That's right.
and then if your wife doesn't get attention,
And
she's
she
gonna
starts
go
going,
look looking for
that's
attention.
exactly right.
So it's
Takes two to tango, as the expression goes. Everybody has
and
to,
it just starts from something so small, from just seeing,
yeah,
not from doing, not from
yeah,
going, not just
yeah,
from
100%. Just having a good time, just
seeing,
just.
just your eyes.
It's all the jests. I'm just having a good time. I'm just dressing up well. Nothing wrong. I'm just looking. I'm just talking. Just. We had this discussion before, but it's very important, ironically, that a person remember that he's capable of the worst. And then he'll keep himself on guard. If a person thinks,
some expression, you can't trust yourself till the grave or something.
yeah, yeah, right. Don't trust yourself until the day you die. Yeah. Yeah. What's the expression? Yeah. The moment a person thinks, oh, it's never going to happen to me. It's no big deal. I can chat. I can this. I can look. I can this. I can this. Because it's never going to happen to me. Yes, it will. And it could. Always remember that and keep yourself on guard. Don't start. That's right, King David. That was our discussion then. Don't stretch out your neck and start lying with your eyes. Yeah, it's not going to happen to me. Yeah, yes, it will.
That's I guess it's also it goes with being humble or not. If you're humble,
right.
You'll know that it can happen to anyone.
That's right. Exactly right.
Humble,
have the humility to know your own faults and your own capacities. That's right. So, and she's expecting Shakar Senayim. I actually wonder how Steinsaltz translates it directly.
Interpreted in a myriad of ways.
He describes it as, he translates it as wanton. W-A-N. Sorry? Reckless?
Disregard.
Let's see how they translate it on Chabad.org. Yeshayahu 3.
Can it be
16.
also her lying eyes for like what she sees is she's lying
like not the way she
herself?
presents herself, but the way she lies about, or she lies how she looks. That could also be, yeah.
No, she lies to herself about what
she's looking at, yeah. Not just not. Oh, I see. Not that she's presenting a lie to the world, but she's lying to herself about what she's looking. Yeah. So here they translate it as winking eyes. Winking. That's what they translate here on Chabad.org. Winking, wanton.
Winking is flirtatious.
Flirtatious, yeah.
Seducing.
But the root word, it would seem to me, is meshakres, comes from the word sheker.
Right.
Let's see what Rashi says on the Chumash there, on the pasuk in Isaiah there. Okay, Rashi says meshakres is an expression of looking.
A roaming eye.
Yeah. Another translation is that they put paint on, meaning they put like blue eye shade.
Yeah,
it seems like it's a kind of word that's not clear because it's winking eyes here. It translates wanton here. It translates it as looking. But it seems to be the root word here is sheker.
Yeah, but they could have used, let's say, a lot of words
to describe winking eyes. Yeah.
Yeah, but then to use sheker, isn't sheker like one of the worst things?
Yeah, it's a lie.
Because it also sheker relating to this leads to much worse.
Exactly.
Whereas I don't know where I read it or heard it, but like you could not trust, but you could like it's like lying could be worse, let's say, even than like other bad stuff like stealing or murder or whatever, because murder won't necessarily lead to lying or the opposite. Whereas
lying is at the root of all the other problems that come afterwards. Yeah. So it seems like there's different ways to translate this word meshakres. I think all of it comes down to the word sheker. I think, unless the mem is part of the shodesh. Anyway. Okay, so next statement is like this. Mishirabu mekable matanos. When recipients of gifts proliferated, of gifts, proliferated. People are too excited to receive gifts. Nismatu hayamim, days became minimized, and eskatzu hashanim, and years became shortened. Diksiv, as the verse reads, is a pasuk we mentioned yesterday. The Rabbi used to quote this. That was the verse I was referring to, which reads, "The one who hates gifts shall live." Yeah, so the simple meaning of the Gemara here is, the pasuk says, someone who hates gifts lives. So the one who loves gifts, his life is shortened. Yeah? So, but the expression of the Gemara is two things. Nismatu hayomim, the days become minimized, and niskatsu hashamim, the years become shorter. It's a double expression.
Yeah.
Well, what does this mean? The days become smaller, and the years get shortened. Had it only said the years got shortened, that would make sense. You don't live as long as you would have, because the pasuk says the one who hates gifts lives.
But one refers to the next life.
Well, so that's one way of thinking about. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't think of that. One refers to the next life, but I was also thinking about something else, which is when it talks about years, it says niskatzru hashanim, which means the years become shortened. When it comes to the days, it says nismatu, the word mat, meaning to minimize. The days become minimized. So one thing is life is short. The other thing is even the days you live become minimized, become less valuable because you're a recipient rather than a giver.
Less meaningful.
The days become small, right? Nismatu ayam, the days become small. The days, not one thing is life shortened. The years become shorter. But nismatu ayam, the days themselves become small.
Small in value.
In value. The opposite of, it's correct. The inverse of this is Avram Avinu. When Avram Avinu dies, the pasuk says, Avram Zaken, Avram is older, Babayam, he's coming of days. So
his days were longer.
His days were full. That's right. He came with all of his days. This is how I explain this. Zaken means he's old. Babayam, coming of days, also means old. Why the double expression? Because old means he reached a certain level of wisdom. He's elder. And Babayam, coming of days, means he comes bayamim with his days. The word bay, the letter bays is a prefix. It could be in days, coming in days, or bays could be with. Bayamim, coming with days. Avram Avinu came with his days, as if to say all of his days were full and maximized in the service of Hashem. Not just that he achieved zaken, he achieved wisdom, which a person can do in a short amount of time or a longer amount of time, but that every day was filled. Babayam, he came with all of his days, right? And this is the opposite. Nismatu ayamim, his days are smaller. Same amount of days, but they're smaller. They're not full because he's a recipient rather than a giver. Rather than a giver. Which is very, very interesting. So I'm going to conclude with before we get to the next line, I want to make another comment here. Does this, God forbid, mean that a person who is in need of charity should not take? God forbid. So what does this mean? And okay, so there's a beautiful talk from the Rabbi where he speaks to a group of donors. The Rabbi created an organization called Machane Yisrael Development Fund. It's still in operation today, and it was Rebbe's funding institution. And becoming a member of that organization basically meant you donated a certain amount of money, whatever, a year, and with that came certain events that Rebbe would attend for these members, for the supporters of Chabad. So in one such event, Rebbe spoke and said like this: everybody in life is both a recipient and a giver. Everybody. So a person who has wealth and he's giving charity, he's giving in that moment. But why was he giving wealth though? He was given wealth so he can give, which means then the recipient who takes the money from him gave the wealthy guy his purpose. Mm-hmm. So even as the poor person receives money, he's also giving.
Well, they say he's
giving. That's right, because he's giving, and elsewhere, not in this talk, but elsewhere, there speaks about this and talks about how a person who's on the receiving end of charity, God forbid, should not feel bad about his state. This is why Hashem created the world. Hashem created the world with givers and receivers, and at this point in life, he's receiving money, but he's giving purpose to the ones who have wealth.
You shouldn't deny the person's right to give you.
100%.
Deprives him of that mitzvah of giving.
100%. And I think there's the point here. Saine matanos, the one who hates gifts, yichya. But if he understands that he's not just a recipient of gifts, but he's part of Hashem's cycle of reciprocity, in which some give and some receive, and in some areas I give, and in some areas I receive, and even in the areas I receive, I'm a giver because I'm fulfilling a purpose and a role. So it injects humility into this. I want to When it injects humility, then it doesn't have the effect of nismatu hayomim, where his days become empty. On the contrary, his days are full. And sometimes his full day is collecting charity. That's his full day. But not as a recipient because he loves receiving. He actually hates receiving. Saying the matanis, he hates receiving. But this is his role in life and mission. To be collecting charity. And there's nothing wrong with that, that being your role in life. Everybody has their role. So it's not, the pasuk doesn't say,
accept it,
That's exactly right. So it's saying the matanis, the hater of gifts. Yeah. Not that you shouldn't take gifts, but it's hating the giving part. Understanding that I'm not just a recipient here. But I'm part of Hashem's process of reciprocity, where wealth moves. I give in some areas, I receive in other areas. And even when I receive, I'm a giver because I'm fulfilling my role as a receiver. And thus giving purpose to those who give me. And I think it comes down to these two words, that the Sotah Matanis, the pasuk says the haters of gifts, not that they don't take them, but they're haters of gifts, because they understand it's not simply a gift. And I'm just a receiver. And this word, nismatu hayomim, the days become smaller, not that they become shortened, like shanim, the years become shortened, but the days become smaller. The days themselves are smaller, less valuable, less meaningful, because I'm a receiver. Give me, I love this. And if I'm a lover of gifts, I'm a lover of receiving, then the days are shortened because meaningless, empty, and just filled with my selfishness.
Some sort of line between receiving for the purpose of being a giver and receiving for the purpose of just receiving.
And there's a subtlety again.
There's
that subtlety.
That line. I mean, it's not hard to decipher it, but there is a line nevertheless.
Yeah. That's right.
Being that giver and being just a gluttonous.
That's right. There's the subtlety again. That subtlety again. That's right. The subtlety of. Sorry.
Everything, I guess. Are you receiving for Torah, or are you receiving for your ego and your pride?
That's right. The humility. The humility. Okay. Tomorrow, God willing, one more line. Two more lines about the slippery slope and the subtleties.
Slippery slope, like that.
Slippery slope, and the subtleties that lead to greater downfalls and destructions.
Right.
Okay, wonderful day. Tonight, Bezat Hashem. Ma'ariv is what time? I think Mincha is 6:55 or something like that. And Ma'ariv is probably about 7. Ma'ariv is somewhere like 7:25, 7:30, something like that. So right after Ma'ariv, God willing, we begin the first of 3 classes on the Haggadah. And the subject of the next 3 classes is going to be a bird's eye view overview of the Haggadah. How is the Haggadah structured the way it is? Why it's structured the way it is? Like, why does one thing follow the next? So we're going to start with like the broad view, and then we'll come more specific as we go through it. And we're going to use the commentary of the Rabbi to do that. And I'm very excited to be able to share with everybody, because I think it's going to be very interesting. At least I enjoyed preparing it so far. So I hope to see everyone, God willing, tonight. Approximately 7:45 we'll start, just right after Ma'ariv. Have a wonderful day, Yidden.